Hello, my name is Joel Chapman and welcome to The People's Voice. I remember the last big event that I went to. The social distancing rules at the time were to have gatherings no bigger than 250 people. Shortly after that, Michigan was placed on lockdown. Only essential workers to go to work and or travel. In these times, all sports are temporarily shut down, from the NBA to the NFL. There is one sport that is still planning on having events. UFC bought an island to host fights and start sports back up.
It's definitely a real thing. It's still in the making. That's as much as we're able to discuss so far, but it's
anything, so I can't disclose anything. I mean, everyone's gonna know really soon about the whole Fight Island thing. But I've been told that it 100% is real. You know, I have friends that are already, you know what I mean, people that live in Las Vegas that work for the UFC that are like gonna be there and stuff. So
indefinitely postponed or canceled from there. I immediately reached out to the UFC, like, hey, what does this mean for me? What do I, and basically they told me stay ready. As soon as we can get the okay from the big dogs upstairs at ESPN and Disney, once they give Dana the okay to put on an event, it's going to happen and it's going to go quickly.
We hear rumors, nothing's set in stone. We're kind of in the dark about it, to be honest. We know it might be in Vegas in June. We don't know if the Fight Island's going to be ready in time by that time in June. So they said they wanted to push it back to June. They didn't give us a date in June, and we don't know where it's going to be. We're guessing it's going to be either Vegas or the Fight Island thing.
they wanted me to fight April 25th, when they were obviously still trying to put it on the show, and obviously that show got canceled. It was going to be at the casino resort in California.
I'm probably going to be fighting the first week in June. I'm not on that. On any of the May cards. I told them I couldn't make weight, but I think I'll be fighting the first week in June. So technically, right now I'm in training camp. You know what I mean? Like,
we're in the same situation. I found a way to make it work. I'm ready to fight. She hasn't obviously been training enough, so I've already gotten all those weeks of great training in. I could fight on May 9th and walk in there feeling 100%. So now I just get an extra month of the same training.
And August, September. That's when I want to fight again. But again, that really depends upon when they release this lockdown. Because of the fact of the matter is that, I want a full camp this time.
Felicia's fine about it. We're literally just powering through. Yes, I'm training with her. Mike's training with her. We have 2 or 3 really strong training partners that she's sticking with, just a few for this training camp to keep it minimal.
Cody, MMA junkie. I heard Dana White say that Fight Island will be ready in July.
This COVID situation, I put on about 15 pounds, and I'm very limited. All I can do is, the basic push-ups, pull-ups.
So that they would be kind of in agreement to sort of semi-quarantine with me, as far as we don't live together, but we're kind of on the same page about we're taking the quarantine seriously. We're not, going out and seeing other people.
When I go anywhere, to the store or anything, wiping everything down, being careful, just because we felt like it was our duty to do that. So I've been wearing a mask and gloves.
With no other sports going on, I think right now it's a race for each sport to get back to it. It feels like you hear about the NBA starting to chirp up again, like they're going to do something. You see the draft tonight for football,
and then at our pro class twice a week, she'll spar with 7 or 8 different people, on a Monday and a Friday. But now we just have 2 or 3 of the people she's, Megan, Luke, a couple of our other pro fighters and stuff like that.
Absolute chaos. And, but people don't really want to train with you because, they're scared of the virus. And, so you got to have 2-3 guys that you trust and 2-3 coaches. And then you kind of got to seclude yourself from everyone. And it's going to be a crazy, crazy experience.
Gives people something to pay attention to for entertainment, but then at the same time, I think he's going to get the backlash of other people who's going to look at it like he doesn't care about the safety of his fighters, or he doesn't care about the safety of the people due to this epidemic. I think it's a double-edged sword both ways. Even though he makes sure that we are good, Dana truly does make sure that we're good.
I would assume they'd have to bring fighters and their coaches over a couple of weeks early and make them isolate maybe, just to make sure that they're good, or even test. I'm not real sure how that's going to work, the logistics to that.
That's ahead of time to make sure that we meet all of the requirements, so to make sure we don't have the corona. You know what I'm saying? Before we even step into the cage, just to worry about the safety of the fighters.
From the UK, or you're from Russia, you're somewhere that has a travel ban and you can't move around. Like, good chance you're not going to fight until they get this fight island up and going. And I heard they're going to private charter everyone, so everyone's going to, you know what I mean? They're going to take everyone on private planes, so they don't have to go to the airport.
Honestly, I feel like some people don't take the coronavirus serious until it happens to you or somebody closest to you. I just recently lost my uncle, who was a father figure in my life, due to the situation, like 4 or 5 days ago. So this is something very serious, and it actually really hit me to the point where we, follow the safety guidelines and the precautions that they ask out of you.
So initially, obviously, I closed my business down. I shut all the doors. I started following every protocol. My girlfriend is immunocompromised, so she's one of the people that would be possibly at high risk.
You know, this is kind of taking me back to the dark ages before I had any money, before I had any clout or anything.
For us, it was a little bit crazy because we have our son that's his immune system's compromised. So
medicine, I went on to complete a fellowship in emergency medicine, and most of my practice has been emergency medicine for the past about 3.5 years.
I am a comedian and actor and game show host and radio host, so I travel a lot while doing essential work, which is working in a hospital. So it's affected my life in entertainment-wise to where I can't do stand-up.
I've been prepping for this my entire life. 7-year-old boy, I knew I would look how I look now. And I knew that I would be a leader and a fighter in an apocalyptic type of world. And here we are.
I'm a traveling emergency medicine physician. I work at about 4 to 5 different facilities in the Michigan, Ohio area. A few level 2 trauma centers, critical care access hospitals. So kind of get experience from everything.
They're basically, I put everything on pause. We were about 2 weeks out from the show when Governor Whitmer, issued the stay in place and made it to where we couldn't have a crowd larger than like 150 at that time or something. And so the casino called me and said, "Hey man, we got an issue." And they actually had a sold out show that she issued the order at 5 o'clock and their show started at 7. And they had like a sold out, concert. And they had to cancel the concert right then, man. I mean, it was pretty wild. I was on the phone with them when they figured that out,
All of the miles we ran, all the sit-ups, all the push-ups, all them rounds, sparring, and preparing to be warriors. Thank God we have boxing and MMA, but it's really for this fight.
Briefings every single day, weekly meetings. Can you get reinfected? That is something that's being studied right now. So I don't have the answer to that, but there are some cases that have been reported where someone tested a positive and then a few weeks later, tested positive again.
I prepped by buying a house with Amish neighbors. I prepped by making sure I had a well, septic. I am directly across the street from state land, and all of my neighbors are Amish, which means they're prepared to go without electricity. They run everything off of propane or generators or solar panels.
The problem is we need to determine how many mutations there are.
The virus hasn't even hit here. We got like 1 or 2 confirmed cases, and so we haven't even experienced it.
What I've noticed is the volumes have decreased significantly. So volumes, where we're used to seeing in some of the facilities I work at, between 160, 200 patients, we're seeing half of that. If we're lucky, we're seeing half of that. So lots of the providers' hours are getting cut. Lots of workers, are getting cut because there's not many people to be seen. But the thing is, the people who are coming into the ER, higher acuity, and are actually sick. So the people who are coming actually need to be there.
Scaling out the essential service, the postal service may run out of money. Definitely needs to be bailed out. We don't need to be bailing out corporate America.
We were were super worried that we were already kind of dealing with shaky, some problems at the border because there was some protesting going on with I believe the natives over there, one of the First Nations, the Anishinaabe brothers up there were blocking the highway, blocking the bridge, so you couldn't go to the U.S.
What I've seen is the media is concerning mostly on the high density, highly populated areas like the big cities, like Detroit. So I do have a few buddies who work downtown. They work at Henry Ford. They work at DMC. There's a few that work in the Beaumont Health System. COVID units have been set up everywhere. They are being overwhelmed because so many people are coming in sick and they only have a certain amount of beds. So, what I've seen is those hospitals, especially the ones in the big cities like Detroit, New York, cities like that.
Weeks out from a sold-out show, I'm glad it didn't happen. I'm sure it saved some people from getting sick. I mean, we would have probably had about 1,400 to 1,500 people there.
Now, again, this virus is, we're still learning things about it every single day. So some people have no symptoms. Some people, go into end organ failure. It just depends. Really, when this whole thing started, I was taking it lightly. But once you start seeing the patients, you start hearing the stories, you start hearing the complications, the amount of people being affected by this, it is something to be taken very seriously.
Be in physical shape, water, food, give back to each other. We have lost the sense of community. We have lost the sense of camaraderie. And basically, that is the foundation of America.
Essential workers are the backbone of our society during this epidemic. So let's see what they have to say.
Back into the working world, at work, first off, they didn't know why I was being quarantined. They actually thought I had, some of the workers actually thought I had the coronavirus.
I work 2 jobs, so one of the jobs I do transport, so some of the hours have been getting cut because it's an ambulance company, but it's only transport, it's not 911 calls.
There's a lot of fear.
We've at my company taken precautions that we need to in order to keep our customers safe and our employees.
But the main thing is I work in an oil and gas industry, and it's an essential service. So pretty much I have to go to work, just building the tools, because this town is known for mining, oil and gas. So pretty much this is one of the essential services.
When you watch the media and you see the number of cases rising, death toll, and 24/7 coverage of the corona, it doesn't help that you're an ER doc working in the ER. So it is, overwhelming. You do feel anxious.
So a lot of our hours have been getting cut, so that kind of affected that way that I had to pick up a job like Instacart. But then I ended up talking to my fire captain so I could get more shifts at the firehouse, which worked out well for me. So the only way the virus has been affecting me in that way, it's a little money, but more so me going to the gym, because the gym is my outlet. It's where I let everything off at.
I feel I have a better chance getting the virus at a grocery store or something like that. So I'm not nervous going back to work. I mean, the supplies are actually limited, which is really insane. Our hand sanitizer is very limited. So that actually is a real thing.
Hospital is just, I'm in front of the COVID-19 Monday through Friday, working at the hospital in Bronson. So that's how it's pretty much affected my life.
So actually that could work because they didn't want to take it home to their family.
We're locking ourselves down here, man. And we didn't, I stopped going to work basically at that point and say, hey, man, I can't risk it. My kids, he gets sick. It's a bad deal. So
be as safe as we can, but dude, we're not stopping. This is my job. This is 100% my job. If the UFC wants me to fight anywhere, I'm in the middle of a field and there's just a cage there and there's absolutely no one around. You know what I mean? Except for a camera crew.
Really slow for us because I'm in the transportation industry, and so a lot of our clientele that I specifically work with travel for work.
I think I ain't quite the same guy, which is kind of weird because he's from Brazil. I don't know if he's in the U.S. or if they don't have any travel issues. But yeah, I think I'm fighting the same guy.
All of us have to wear masks, at work, the whole day. We can't take our masks mask off unless like we're on break or something. Then we can take our mask off, but we have to wear it all day, every day.
You know, am I gowning up appropriately? Am I wearing the right PPE, the right masks? Am I going to take it home? Am I going to spread it to my kids, my wife? You know, those were the things that I was most concerned about.
I'm working Monday through Friday, third shift. They closed down 2 floors, the first floor and the third floor. Those are all COVID patients, or patients that are considered to have it, but ruled out to have it or may not have it. And it's scary going in there because, first of all, you don't know what you're touching, what you're grabbing, who you're facing that has it. I mean, it's just crazy because it's just like at this point you don't even want to be in the hospital at all.
Equipment, we get the N95 masks, we get gowns, we get stuff like that. You got to be cautious on every call. You wear gloves, hand sanitizer. We have all that. We have alcohol wipes. You want to wipe down every call and stuff like that. If you pick up a patient, you want to wear a mask.
They are very afraid, anxious, saddened, cry a lot, missing their family.
People coming in that, you know, it's not essential. It's obviously not essential travel. It's not essential things that they need. And, you know, really putting themselves at risk and putting us at risk.
So it's just like, you don't know if they do have it or if they don't have it. Because you're gambling with the probability of how many people are coming into the hospital knowing that they don't have this virus. And that's reckless, man, because you're gambling with your life at this point. That's what I'm looking at. You're playing Russian roulette.
President, it's very sad because they used to see their family on a weekly basis. They haven't seen their family in the past 3 weeks, almost a month.
Do everything outside the store. If we see outside, we'll come outside. We wear a mask. We put gloves on, everything like that, to keep ourselves safe and our customers safe as well.
They don't understand that, so that is very confusing for them. They felt like their family leave them and don't care about them. They share that also. But as a nurse right now, it's kind of like we becomes their family.
And a lot of people are dying at the same time, so you're having a seesaw battle with this. Not even mentioning a couple patients last weekend. I've had 3 patients die from the COVID-19. Had to bring them down, had to put them in the body bags, and they still have to wear masks while they're dead.
I think I sleep it off. I need a whole day of just pure sleep after I get out of work. And then I get enough energy to go back to work.
It's pretty 50-50 in my opinion. I see people that either abide by the guidelines and they really are traveling because it's essential for a family member, for work, or whatever it may be. And then I see the complete other side where people are just coming in like there's nothing going on. And when you tell them hey, you know, this is what we gotta do, they kind of look at you like, what are you talking about? Why are you guys doing this? Is stupid type thing. You know?
Going to work is not like work for me, really. It's like I am going to just go have a great day with some awesome people.
My anxiety level is at a 10, but I play cool though because I know I gotta work and I do have a newborn. He just turned 10 months yesterday. So coming home and trying to figure out hey, look, you know, get in, take a shower, make sure all that grime and stuff is off you from working, from being near patients, all of that. Because I want to come home and hug my children. You know what I'm saying?
The hospitals that I work at and the hospitals, the majority of the hospitals that my colleagues work at, all have COVID units set up. Some of them have tents outside for screening. You know, a majority of the ORs have been transitioned to COVID units because right now nobody's performing any elective surgeries. It's mostly emergent surgeries, and the focus is primarily on, you know, taking control of this virus to prevent complications and further spread.
To be able to travel, to be able to go out, you know, to explore. But now I pretty much live to work, so
I miss everything because now it's man, I work every day. I go to work, I work from 5 a.m. to 2 p.m., go home a little bit, chill. Sometimes I go around the fire station, go work there, hang out. It's my life is just working now. I play games for a little bit, but I get boring after a while. I'm
closing certain stores and condensing down hours and everything like that, and working short amount of hours as well too. And so for me personally, I feel that my organization's done a fantastic job, especially for like the well-being of the employees and the customers as well.
I don't know which day I want to come home, and am I going to get sick or am I going to have the symptoms? That's the most scariest thing in the world to me. That's the most scariest thing in the world, because coming home Monday through Friday in the mornings at 6 o'clock, you don't know if you're going to have the symptoms or you're going to wake up, or if you're going to wake up.
And try to offer, hope. I try to encourage the residents and let them know that, this too shall pass. This will pass over, and you will get to see your family again.
It's a cool, it's one of those cool stories that I can look back on and be like, yeah, I gave it my all, I really put in, and I found a way to make everything work. I didn't get, buried in negativity about what's going on. I'm gonna overcome, and I'm gonna come out on top.
Even though the schools are closed, there are still programs to help families out during this epidemic. So let's see what's going on.
I actually working, except for helping out with the lunch. But since they closed the school, because I drive, so.
In March, I was just an ordinary senior, just trying to get through the year, excited about graduating.
But on the other side of it, I had more time to get stuff done at my house and more exercising.
I'm a stay-at-home mom anyway, so I feel like we're a lot luckier than a lot of people right now. So
only hours that I do get is when I come and help out with the passing out the lunches, going picking them up and taking them to the sites where they go pick up the lunches from.
It's all as well too, especially with the kids, because they've been stopping a lot of things, closing down grocery stores early, so it's been making it hard for them to get food. So it's a blessing.
So I was contacted from somebody from the administration building asking if I would be willing to hand out lunches, and I was asked where I would like to hand out lunches at, and I said I'd like to hand them out at Hillside since that's where I teach, in the hopes that I would see some of my students as I'm handing out lunches, and I have seen some of my students, and it makes my day to see their smiling faces.
Well, I'm doing online schooling now, which is kind of hard because you don't interact with the teachers. You can't get the help that you really need.
For my school personally, our seniors are done. We are graduating based off of our third marking period.
Apply for unemployment because, we automatically will get back to work. But in the summertime, when the regular school year, we have the choice to work either summer school or they have a paint crew that they do. So
it's been a lot of programs and a lot of people coming in saying they'll help out, and then with rent, they told us that they'll push it back. Other bills, they were just excusing it for the month.
Mentor 5 young ladies, and I've been in communication with them, and a lot of them are just saying they're missing their friends, they miss their teachers, and surprisingly they miss school.
I actually like going to school, so I kind of miss going to school.
I loved school. It's so weird to say, but now that I'm taken away, it got taken away from me, I love school. I love seeing my school friends. I love seeing my friends. I love being in the environment of school, having routine. I liked learning. I just miss it a lot.
With this coronavirus, to be honest with you, with this, the school is canceled for the rest of the school year. There will not be any summer school.
Seeing my graduation, my 8th grade graduation, so I don't get to have the graduation that I've been wanting into going into high school.
I didn't think it would get this big, and so just pretty much my senior year ending so abruptly kind of put a big impact on my life, since I've been looking forward to this since I started high school. I have my prom dress actually hanging up behind me on my door that I was supposed to wear. So yeah, I feel robbed, but then again, I understand that we need to keep people safe. We're doing this for a reason.
In the house. We in the house. We quarantined for real. It's tough, but we doing good. We're trying to keep some type of workflow going to keep their mind stimulated.
Online schooling is they're taking our grades that we submit with the work that they've given us on online schooling. So my teachers have given me assignments every day this week and for the past few weeks with the whole coronavirus, and that has to be done by the end of the week and handed in.
I haven't heard any effects of how it's affected them, like just their families. I ask them all the time how their families are doing. They say they all are still well, so.
I'm hoping for a few more weeks. If not, we're going to be in a lot of economic trouble.
Everybody's going through a hard time, but it also has brought a lot of people together. And we've helped, it's brought humanity into some people, and like I see some people with things on their fences that are like giving out food. Like I just think it's brought people together in a way I don't think we knew what it would. And so I think that's the most positive thing that can come from this, is that people are helping people.
Government, I guess, stay positive, be friendly, stay healthy, and have hope.
On April 7th, the governor of Michigan decided to close the public parks. She must have felt that people just weren't taking it serious enough. So let's see what some other people on the other side of the world are currently going through.
I'm living in Jakarta, Indonesia. People around the area start taking it seriously. They put like a place to wash their hands, like on the street, so that people will be more aware of the situation. Like, hey, something's happening, you have to wash your hands.
Vegas isn't that bad. Vegas isn't like Michigan. People, it's in like in Michigan that's like, it's crazy. Everyone's like, the strip is completely closed. Like, there's nothing happening on the strip. Like,
people here are pretty smart about it now, because I think we're not. I'm not sure if we're doing the worst, but I know we're doing pretty bad. So people kind of learned over time, like, hey, maybe we should take this seriously.
So we have a curfew, which is past my bedtime anyway, so it doesn't affect me at all. We're not supposed to go out like after 11, which is fine. I mean, the grocery stores are open. That's pretty much the only place that I've been.
Stay-at-home notice. Everything is shut down, bars, restaurants. They are doing essential workers, which would be your fast food joints that have drive-thrus. Most of your restaurants, their cooks are working, and then they've set in place a delivery system.
I'm in Perth, Western Australia. It's one of the biggest states in Australia.
There's a stay-at-home work order here, but the governor of the state is talking about opening it up, but he's since backed off of that.
Actually, over the weekend, I went downtown to like work out and everything, ride a bike downtown. A lot of the parks are closed up, so it's like weird. You see people walking, it's like a ghost town downtown Chicago. And Chicago is usually filled, and it sucks to see it like that because you just see small groups and everything. I understand why small groups. Like, we can go outside just for a little bit for air and stuff or to work out, but it feels like a ghost town. Don't feel like Chicago.
They call it the essential businesses are open. So like grocery stores and doctors' offices and stuff. So yeah, it's not like a complete shutdown, but it's definitely affecting a lot of people. And you know, obviously the restaurants are closed and bars are closed and stuff like that. So it's a little bit different. But for me, you know, I'm also in fight camp, so it's not like I'm not gonna be going to many bars anyway.
Coronavirus that's happening here. People who work in corporate jobs are in a lockdown, like they're working from home. And you know, like when you go out, it's pretty much your social distancing with people. Like you have to be 1.5 to 2 meters apart, and two people, you know, can go together wherever they're going, like to the park or to the, you know, like hanging out or anything like that, or even to the grocery store.
Fine, it's just like if you don't follow the instruction, then we will send you a letter.
Our gun violence actually went down, which is actually good. I'm kind of happy for that because our gun violence was at an all-time high. So I'm glad the violence went down because of the virus. So this virus actually has been, it's like a blessing and not a blessing because it made the gun violence go down a lot.
Yeah, and my partner both got sick. I'm actually high risk. I'm a diabetic. So, you know, I'm a little concerned with that. But we ended up being okay. It was just like the weirdest feeling I've ever had when I was like sick. I've only been sick bad like that like 2 or 3 times in my life, and it was the fever, like the constant high grade grade fever, that was the worst part of it for me, because you wake up and you just feel drained and out of it, and that is your entire day.
It's nowhere close to being as locked down as other states by any means. I know in Michigan right now, like, you can't go on a Sea-Doo or a motorboat.
That I've ever seen in Las Vegas. I mean, people are everywhere. It's not like people aren't shut up in their houses like they are in their places. Like, it's nice here. It's 85, 90 degrees. You know what I mean? Like, it's freaking awesome here.
They're selling toilet paper, literally, like for 12 rolls for $80, and people were buying them. It was that crazy.
Okay, so if I have to compare what happens in America and in Indonesia, it's kind of different because you guys are running to the store for toilet peppers, but here we don't really need toilet peppers because we have the bidet and it's just different way of using the toilet, so it doesn't really matter for us.
It lasted probably about like a week and a half, around there, like a week and a half, 2 weeks. I'm not sure where I got it because nobody from my job had it. We didn't really go out that much, but I know that at my partner's job, they had like 3 confirmed cases or 4 confirmed cases and still didn't shut down. So that might have been, how many? 6. Okay, 6. And they still didn't shut down. It still haven't shut down. So that was probably it.
It has. It's got to the point where nobody wants to spend money.
Personally, haven't been to the beaches, but I know I live in Orlando, so the beaches are about an hour each direction. But I grew up on the coast, and my family, and I see pictures of my friends posting, saying the media is saying all these people on the beach. There's literally no one on Fort Lauderdale Beach.
But what's running out in the store was the basic needs, like the Asian basic needs, like the rice, rice and then vegetable oils, everything you need in your kitchen.
So in Perth, so the Woodwards, which is our like you guys have the Walmart, we have Woodwards over here. That was like so crowded, like it was Armageddon happening. Everything was clearing the shelf. People were buying all the ice creams, all the soft drinks, everything and anything. Like pretty much you had to fight to get what you wanted.
In our gym, whenever the governor gives us the go-ahead, we're making it mandatory that all of our instructors wear a mask, at least for phase 1 or phase 2, they say, of the openings. We're going to make our instructors wear masks when they teach.
You can't get it right back, so I guess I'm a little less terrified to get it, but I'm still cautious because, you can still get sick. They're still being sick out there. And, I mean, I don't know if it's the same case for, a bunch of different states, but around here, cops will actually say something if you don't wear a mask now.
I've known it was coming. We set up this area right here is full of food, dry goods, non-perishable stuff.
The president has started we call it the PSBB, which means it's like the abbreviation for the large-scale social restriction, which means social activities are being very limited, like no school, like less works, and then also no social activities like parties or churches or mosque. Indonesia is like the Muslim majority country, right?
It's just a lot of panic and a lot of speculation that has led to, people thinking crazy things.
It's a little over exaggerated to a point. I do think that from the medical research that I've done and from the doctors that I've done research on and some of the papers they've published, I think there's a little more to this than meets the eye, personally.
My friend's father ended up passed away from COVID, and he was perfectly healthy. He was just older. He was around 52, and he was a cop and everything, great health, great shape, and then he got it. He was older, he passed away. It's crazy.
There's neighbors, 1 or 2 of them already passed away because of the COVID. So it scares me because it's my sister's area. It's like, are you okay?
to get it because I was high risk, and my partner, she managed to get it because she was around confirmed cases. Before I made my appointment, I tried to just go to a walk-in, and the line was like 3 blocks down.
Trouble. So wait till the CDC says what to do. Like some states opening up already. I understand why, because it's hot in those certain states. So the virus dies in heat and stuff like that. So I understand why they're opening up, but I still think it's too soon. Like we're on another lockdown to May 30th now.
At the mosque. And also, people can't go back to their hometown. Because usually during the Eid al-Fitr, people go back to their hometown and visit their relatives. So this year the government restricts all of us to go back to our hometown. So
like millions of people, me being one of them. So you're already seeing a lot of people without income, and then all of these lump sums are going to have to get paid out. There's a lot of stuff happening that's just funneling money and draining money. And, you know, this is like the worst economic meltdown that we've had in a long time.
Sunday is usually the biggest church day of the year by far. So let's see how the preachers handle Easter Sunday this year.
2 services on Sundays, 7:30 in the morning and 10 o'clock in the morning. And so we had to kind of make a decision of how to downsize those services. So we went to 50 or less, which was the first executive order, and then down to 10 people or less. And then the final decision, I made the final decision that we would actually ask none of the members to actually come to the physical building, but to worship virtually or to worship online.
It has been pretty intense. I mean, obviously the church, not just the building, but the body of Christ wanting to gather together and fellowship together. COVID-19 has put a hindrance on the traditional sense of that, where we can't come together in groups and gather. So we have really been looking to do more virtual fellowship, using programs like Zoom and you know, even Facebook Messenger and different ways that we can connect with multiple people.
After this quarantine started, and they started with the social distancing and everything, we shut our church down. We shut it down for 1 week, and our church is just our church holds about 100 people, but we have about a 20 to 30 person congregation at times. Just a small Pentecostal church.
Just pop in, so it's very different for us. We have been, I would say, largely waiting things out.
It has a list of names to contact of individuals in our church that are over 65. They get a call on a weekly basis, which is like a check-in call to just let us know how you're doing, if you need anything. Some of our members need groceries, and they're over the age where they really shouldn't be out. They're putting themselves at risk, and they come out. So we have a team in place that will go out and get those groceries and make sure that our members are taken care of.
The opportunity to partner with the city of Kalamazoo, the mayor reached out to us because when they started doing distancing, the drop-in center, Ministry with Community, which is a day shelter, normally has 150 people in there on a day, and they had to set different occupancy limits and put it to 45 people. And so they asked if we would be willing to run a day shelter out of the church. The city staffs it, and Integrated Services Kalamazoo staffs it. They have a security team and all that. So we're running a 7-day-a-week day shelter out of the church, and so that's brought some unique challenges and opportunities with it as well.
The Lord spoke to me and said, I've blessed you with this great big parking lot, so have parking lot service. So where people would just pull in, stay in their car. We set up the sound system outside, set up speakers outside, set up a pulpit outside. I mean, I set everything up just like it was inside the church, other than we don't have an altar out there, but I do go around and pray for each and every car at the end of service. So,
I would say very welcoming and friendly congregation. Like I said, the gathering together is a very crucial part for who we are. We're big on actually being able to hang out together and you know, do that fellowship, have that time of community together. So, like I said, when this hit, it really it caused us to have to get creative to continue to be who we are, you know, as a church body.
Our Easter programs and services were online. We did have a robust schedule planned. Obviously, we had to deviate from that a little bit. But one thing I can say is that we did not allow it to dampen our spirits and to distract us from the real purpose of Easter, which is the resurrection of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
We're going to celebrate Easter together in September, the first full weekend after Labor Day.
Maybe it was a little too loud for this guy. I'm not sure. But anyway, he pulled in on a motorcycle and was saying, telling us, he pulled right up to the pulpit, started revving his motorcycle up, trying to get us to stop and shut down. Well, he seen it wasn't affecting me. I just kept right on preaching the word of God, and he drove through this parking lot just revving his motor. I mean, just going all over this parking lot. Finally he left. So that was what we dealt with on Easter Sunday morning at our service.
For the protection and safety of the members of our church and the community at large, because a lot of times we have people that come in that are not members, and they come in off the streets, or they're visitors or guests, and so for the safety of everybody, we just elected to have a virtual service, which I'm able to go live from my home.
People feel a little bit more comfortable maybe sitting in their car.
It's belonging to an online community is very different than actually belonging, and so we are in downtown and have stayed within a few, walking distance of the mission, because a number of our people are homeless, and so we have always felt called to that community. And so how do you do online church for people who don't access the internet?
It's the hub of the community, and many of the services that we provide, like the food pantry, benevolence, a lot of people walking off the street for help and assistance with light bills, utility bills, what have you, and with no one being there, that's a tremendous impact negatively.
It's a little different. But now that we've come to do it week after week, we have a weekly service that we do out in the parking lot, and then we have a Sunday morning service we do in the parking lot. And now it's kind of become we've kind of become used to it. People are starting to like it, get more comfortable with it, and through all this, I believe that our church has prospered from this. Actually,
4 funerals or eulogies throughout this epidemic or pandemic, if you will, and very sad that individuals, first of all, that the person has died or passed away. Secondly, it's sad for the families, because in most instances the families are not able to give a proper tribute or to honor their loved one that has passed away.
My mother-in-law, her sister's son actually just passed away a couple hours ago from the COVID over in Albion, Michigan.
It's even more sad is that, for instance, if these individuals passed away in a nursing home, or if they passed away at the hospital, with the executive orders, the family members were not allowed to visit them in the hospital. So a lot of these people died alone or died by themselves. Their family was not permitted to be with them. So they didn't even have the closure.
She wasn't able to go see him or anything during the whole time he was in the hospital. So it's rough for her. So she needs prayers big time through this time. That's very tough.
And all of the other family members had to remain in their cars, which they really couldn't hear what I was saying or what anybody was saying, but they were there. But to me, that's very impersonal, very disheartening. And what I kind of feel like is, after all this is over, people are going to have a difficult time with grieving, because they weren't able to properly grieve, and in a respectful manner.
He's 70 years old, and I believe that he's been on the ventilator, I think, for about a week, and I think he's been in the hospital for about 2.5 weeks.
Because right now, a lot of the families don't. How much closure do you have
when you're sitting in your car and you're just watching the preacher say a few words over top of a casket, and there's only 10 people out there, and each one of those 10 people, they are standing 6 feet apart. So I probably would say we'll probably have quite a few services after all this is lifted, without the remains present, but just the picture and probably memorial services will have to be scheduled.
And they're like, hey, it's getting better. Then it popped up at the Gospel Mission, and it started to, now another pastor in our cluster has, he's not critical COVID, but has COVID. And so this is, you know what I mean, now in a time when it's supposedly getting all better, I believe that it will probably spread very quickly and pretty extensively through the homeless community, and the indigenous population just doesn't have the access to the distancing and also the hygiene measures that people with homes and all of that do. So
a number of pastors that I know have passed away right here in Michigan, and it has really impacted me, and it's really hit home to me. I don't think it's real until it's someone you really knew, or that you really know, and you know for a fact that they had COVID-19 and that they died from those complications. It becomes a reality. And when I started seeing my colleagues, fellow pastors, fellow ministers, right here in our state, the state of Michigan, succumbing to the coronavirus, it became real to me.
It'll be interesting to see what happens in the next few weeks. I know that 2 of our homeless friends called this weekend from the hospital, and they were both diagnosed with COVID. And so not knowing where that's at. So as far as our tribe, we're just now starting to see people getting it. And so while we've been sitting out for 6 weeks, it took kind of that long.
Hope and encouragement to those persons that are not able to stay at home or shelter in place, but they have to go to work. They have to get out there in these streets and in the community to help other people. And in doing so, putting their own lives at risk, that speaks volumes.
In Michigan, the stay-at-home order got extended until May 1st. Some of the Michigan residents were happy about the extension. Others were not so happy. So here's some of the opinions about what's going on.
I think it was the right move, first of all. I guess I'll start out with that. I mean, I've been against the whole thing from the beginning.
Yeah, I support Governor Whitmer. I think she's making, great decisions for us as a good of the whole. It's because she's trying to keep us safe. And I appreciate that wholly.
There's no rhyme or reason to it. And none of the reasons that she's given make any sense. We don't want you running out to the store for plants because then you need more gas, you touch things, blah, blah, blah. But it's okay if you need Lotto. Then you can run out to the store and stand 2 feet behind the next guy who's trying to get Lotto. So, qualified answer, it may have made sense, but not the way she's implemented it.
She's doing things the opposite of what she should be doing. She's treating us all like we should stay at home and don't go to your families, don't touch your wife, don't touch your girlfriends and all.
I think this is something to be taken seriously. I think the lockdown is important right now just to prevent transmission, to prevent the spread, and to prevent overwhelming the hospital systems.
Look into the question then. If the question is it time to extend the quarantine, you have to ask yourself, are our hospitals overrun? Because that is why they were enacted, right? It's a simple math formula. Wayne County is the hardest hit county in Michigan. 3 counties in Michigan, most people don't know this, 3 counties in Michigan make up 88% of the cases, Wayne County being the highest. With that being said, the Beaumont Wayne Hospital dedicated to COVID closed a week ago. They are not even treating people. It's closed. They don't have enough cases. They don't have enough cases. Don't take my word for this. Ask yourself why, in a time when we are social distancing, to flatten the curve, are our hospitals laying off hundreds of workers or closing their doors.
Work for a lot of people, it takes out their jobs, and that's tough, and I feel for that. But I think you got to take care of like the public health first. So
when you force half of the people to do something that they don't want to do, the other half is going to be mad. Okay. So the whole social distancing thing, I get. Now, let me just be clear here that my wife and my daughter both have asthma. Okay, so since this is a respiratory virus, they're both high risk. Okay,
because the thing you don't want to happen is everybody have it, and there's a certain amount of beds in these hospitals, and then you're gonna have to decide. I'm sure you've heard, you know, who's gonna live, who's not gonna live, who's gonna get the vent, who's not gonna get the vent.
The country of Sweden enacted no lockdowns other than like some like they left their bars open, malls open. You can do whatever you want. Sweden's wide open. They were like, hey, you know what? Maybe don't congregate in super tight groups over 50. But they've left their country wide open. They have about 10 million population. Michigan has about 10 million population. Sweden is a few weeks from achieving herd immunity, meaning the virus has gone through their population to the point where it's no longer effective. They have less deaths than Michigan, which has locked down.
No type of win for her at all. Period. This is literally, she's doing what she believes is best from everything that she's seen.
Details. I think right now, I think people just kind of take what I hope is a sort of a common sense approach.
The safety and fear in some people, for me, doesn't warrant everybody else to lose their personal freedom.
The thing is this: once you see people keep dropping like flies and you don't realize what the hell is going on once again, people are putting themselves at risk. You're not realizing what people are going through. Just because you don't have the symptoms don't mean you don't have the virus. What testing does is it picks up all of the cases of people that were infected, that the disease did infect, that did not need to seek hospitalization, that did not need to go in because they were not severe, that maybe didn't even have symptoms, that, asymptomatic, for the people that when they hear that word and they don't know what that means. That means you were infected, but you show zero symptoms. So antibody testing is the answer. In the news, you're going to hear everybody saying, we need to test, they're looking for positive tests. That's not the right answer. If you were to base your fear response on positive tests, imagine if you track the number of influenza cases, which in a season can be up to 50 million. Imagine if every day the news went in front of you and said, 100,000 more people got this infection today, and you thought that was relevant. You would be horrified.
Overcrowding the hospitals, of everything that's going on. I mean, I would hope people could just remove the politics from that and just say, this is real stuff that's going on. Like, regardless of what you think about the governor or the president or anybody else, it puts her in a tough spot. I mean,
but that doesn't mean that you have to be quarantined to your house. It does not mean that just because some people are scared, and they have every right to be scared, it's a scary thing, it doesn't mean that they can't go, in my case, ride my motorcycle down the road where I'm not in contact with anybody. I have gloves and a helmet on.
Quarantine or / the stay at home is against their constitutional rights because executive order. In other words, they didn't pass a law. And that's the only part that I give credence to, because there was no law that said, you had to stay at home. That's very much correct, but don't try to make it seem like the governor is doing us a disservice by trying to keep us safe.
You don't look at color, you don't look at creed, you don't look at religion, you don't look at none of that. The virus, and I'll put it to you like this, folks. The virus does not care about your constitutional rights.
I think that maybe it would have made sense to extend, the order to stay at home if it had been consistent. At least then there would be some sort of sensical way to look at it. She's completely inconsistent with how she's issued these decrees. You can buy lotto, you can buy booze, you know, you can do all these things that buy weed that generate revenue for the state. But if I happen to be in Home Depot for something that she deems to be essential, and I need something that she deems isn't essential, well then that's just too bad. And
we can't go buy plants, we can't start a garden, we can't, you know, go fishing, we can't go out on a motor fishing boat, bass boat or whatever.
Just used to not being able to go out to take away our rights and everything like that, and like they think it's a revolutionary war all over again. Like, it's not any of that. It's because the thing is to remember what this whole thing, every state is independently managing the situation. This is the way Michigan is handling it right now.
I mean, if you had a national approach, maybe that would have helped contain the spread a little bit more. But you know, I can sort of get the idea of leaving it up to the states too.
For example, I just read an article about the city of Dearborn over by Detroit, which has way more cases than we do over here on this side of the state. Is that if you get pulled over in your car just for being out, they will issue you a $500 ticket. If they catch you a second time, you're going to jail. Which is completely ridiculous to me, because then you're being placed in a jail where you're surrounded by how many people? Who knows? Hundreds? And once it gets into the jail system, I mean, they don't really have the medical capacity to take care of inmates that have this.
I guess you just got to trust the governors and everything to do the right thing. And, you know, so far, I think in Michigan, they've done the best they can. It's a tough decision, like we said, with, you know, the economic side of it. I definitely feel that. You know, people just don't like being told what to do also.
The governor has completely overreached. There is a political element here, and I think if anybody denies that, then they aren't just thinking clearly, because I don't know, there's been a lot of mention that she might be a running mate for the presidency coming up.
I believe it is political because she's trying to get a nod for being VP.
People going so far to say that she's doing this for her own advancement in her career is a very unintelligent response for me. It's because no matter what she does, like, it's going to be beneficial to us and her in the long run.
The antibody tests. Why am I not being told of all of these things that tell me the reality? Don't tell me what you think about the virus. Don't tell me about how it makes you feel. Don't interview the nurse that's crying her eyes out because she watched someone die, or what it looks like to intubate somebody. It's horrible. It's emotional. Tell me about the reality. Because as millions of people, like I said, if I can't open June 1st, I've lost everything I've built. And if I find out I lost everything I built simply because information was withheld from the United States population, you know what? Me and countless others, there could be an uprising at that point.
You can't pay your car insurance, you can't pay your rent, you can't pay your electric bill. No, let us slug it out over food. Let's slug it out over water, over gasoline, over beer, over alcohol, over nicotine, 4, 5, 6 months.
You know how long something is going to be for. You can handle pretty much anything if you know there's an endpoint coming. But with this, there isn't. I mean, there'll eventually be an end, but we don't know when it is.
If I was her, I wouldn't have had a lockdown at all. I think that all government is it's just made up of people, okay? And I think the people and the citizens of this country can think for themselves.
It's just totally unnecessary to resort to that type of behavior. So one, it's not going to fix the problem. It's going to prolong the problem, if anything. Is the way things have been going, because I've seen things going down. I think by the 30th, like, we should be good. But because of something like what just happened, specifically in this situation, it could get extended.
Or, you know, all the people who weren't in their cars. You know, I don't know what the estimates were, 20,000, 40,000. All these people in their cars, they're filming small group of knuckleheads who decided they were going to go stand on the Capitol steps with their rifles slung over their back. I was right next to the hospital, and nobody at any time blocked the entrance getting into ambulance getting into the Sparrow Hospital at all. Even somebody that works at the Sparrow Hospital, one of the doctors even said that and put a statement out on social media and with the news that at no time Sparrow Hospital entrance for ambulances was blocked off at no time.
It depends on your point of view. Me, myself, I would not have done it, but I wouldn't do so,
Totally like, oh my God, the protest is horrible. But it was unnecessary the way that it was done.
Yeah, I think she made the right decision and made the extension on the quarantine and the social distancing. And yeah, I think I would have agreed with that decision. If I was the governor somehow, I guess I would have done the same thing.
Or some people who have a cabin up north can't drive up to their cabin and hunker down for a couple weeks and then come back if they want to.
A lot of trucks and trailers. Them trailers are full of people who are downstate taking their most valued possessions and coming up north to either their family's house or their vacation house. And like the Detroit Metro is packed with people who own houses up this way.
Virus, and it started with one person, okay, and it spread throughout the entire world. If you lock something down for 30 days, and it's not a complete lockdown of the entire nation, okay, there's states that aren't doing this, okay. Once that lockdown is lifted, there's going to be people that still have this, okay. It's going to spread again, and it's going to come back just like all viruses do in the winter or the fall, and then this is all going to happen again. This is not a short-term thing. We're in this for the long run.
We should, as Americans, and I feel like this is just an American value about pulling ourselves up our bootstraps and coming together to, do what's best for the good of the whole. And it's because even after this is all over, and this is why I'm going back to the politics piece, even after this is all over, it's not going to change that we still have a social distance. Like, there's no end to this, really. There'll be an end to stay at home. But it's that, like, the flu stuff disappeared. So it's just like we have flu season every other year. This is just a different strain.
Of course, the numbers aren't accurate. There were so many, like up here, there's still not an abundance of access to testing and stuff like that up here. We're in a county where there's, I think, 70-something cases right now, probably the most in northern Michigan. And, it's still hard to get tested. A lot of people will come in and they're sick and they're showing symptoms and they don't test, they test negative for the flu, but they're sending them home with an inhaler and some antibiotics, you know what I mean, and telling them to self-isolate. So how do you know, how many people really have this thing, man? You know what I mean? And so to me, it seems like if there's 75, then there's got to be at least 10 times that. You know what I mean? 5 to 10 times it.
This virus was already way more widespread than they realized, and they were looking at the deaths proportionately. So imagine if you were to believe that 100 people were infected and 10 of them died. You would say this has a 10% case fatality rate, and that's devastating. That is worth, implementing social distancing and the things you have to do to save 10% of your people. But what if you were to find out that, in fact, it wasn't 100 people that were infected, it was 100,000 people and 10 had died? All of a sudden, you have to have perspective.
I would say a gradual reopening, open things slowly and try to transition back into normalcy. But between you and I don't think we're going to go back to the way we were living before. Those precautions are going to have to be necessary moving forward.
I would just say, just be understanding from everyone's point of view, man. You got people that are dogging people for being scared of it and being cautious and wearing masks and wanting to stand. And then you have those people talking crap and dogging people that are saying that it's fine and they're out and about. We're not wearing masks. Like, I just want people to understand both people's perspective. Like, it's hard. I know it's hard to think outside yourself and to think and put yourself into someone else's shoes.
I think if you disagreed with them, you disagree more. If you agreed with them, you agreed with them more. And very few people from one side stepped into the other side because of this.
Some people think that the governor is right, and some people think that the governor is wrong. Either way, it's getting crazy. So tune in, because I have no idea what's about to happen.